Hello, Giants fans, and welcome to a Victory Tuesday edition of the Valentine's Views podcast here on Big Blue View Radio. Please like, share, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts across the Big Blue View Radio network. All right, lots to talk about after the Giants' last-second 24-22 victory over the Green Bay Packers on Monday night. We all seem to be just living in Tommy DeVito's world these days. And here to help me talk about that is Big Blue View's Tony DelGenio. Morning, Tony. I don't think either one of us got much sleep last night. How you doing?
Good morning, Ed. I'm doing fine, even though I'm only operating on a few hours sleep. But that's a good type of loss of sleep.
There you go. Let's hope that my voice holds out here for the duration of the show. It seems to be fighting me a bit this morning, but so be it.
Too much Tony, yelling for Tommy DeVito.
Not from the press box. Not from the press box. But I get a kick out of those every time you sit in the press box at MetLife Stadium, because there are a couple of teams whose media is a little bit on the loud side. You always get this is a working press box. No cheering. And last night, the announcement included a inside voices, please, which made me laugh. So, but yeah. So no, it has nothing to do with me yelling. It's just, it is what it is. We'll try to get through here. Tony, we got to talk about Tommy DeVito. I wrote, overnight that, there was a time this kid was a novelty act, and it wasn't that long ago. And, maybe the wheels will come off of this eventually, but it's getting harder and harder to look at what Tommy DeVito is doing and think that it's not real. Think that this kid doesn't have some staying power as an NFL quarterback. I don't know what the ceiling is, but it's getting harder and harder to look at this kid and think he's not an NFL caliber player.
Yeah, I mean, he's taking steps every week. He's you can see that he's improving. He didn't take the sacks last night. He stepped up in the pocket and scrambled for yardage when he had to. He's making nice throws. I mean, they really had the wraps on him early in the game for whatever reason. But in the second half, when they needed him to go out and win the game, he went out and helped them win the game. And especially on that, a couple of throws in particular, just beautiful last night. And he's looking very impressive. He's not throwing interceptions. You can't ask for too much more than what he's giving you right now.
No, he hasn't turned the ball over in 3 games. Made big throws last night when he needed to. The throw to Wandale Robinson on the final drive, was a great throw. Set the Giants up for the victory. And the most impressive thing when you talk to players is DeVito's belief in himself. I mean, this came out of undrafted free agent, only playing because the veteran quarterbacks that the Giants had, went down to injury. And now, as Brian Daboll said last night, the job is his, and he's earned it. It's obvious that the Giants have belief in him. He has belief in himself, and I don't know. Somebody said to me last night, one of the other media members said he's Kurt Warner, and I don't know. I think it's early for that. It's way early for that, but give the kid credit. Excuse me. Give the kid credit because he's doing things that nobody thought he could do. He's lifted the Giants to a place at this point in the season where nobody thought they would be. They are, and as you said, they may not really be a playoff team, but they are on the cusp of the playoff race. And that's a place no one ever thought they would be. And they feel like they can win games. So, I just, all the credit in the world to the kid. I just, I don't know if or when the wheels are going to come off, but but it sure is an amazing, fun ride.
And what does it say about the NFL ability to evaluate quarterback prospects that you can have someone like him completely fall through the cracks? I mean, he got absolutely no buzz at all last year. I didn't know anything about him. And then you think about this, coming on the heels of Brock Purdy last year, also kind of coming out of nowhere. He did get drafted, but the very last one taken in the draft. And you think of all the energy that goes into analyzing quarterback tape and visiting college campuses and watching these guys and talking to them and interviewing them and everything that they do leading up to it. And then you have a guy like this just come into the NFL, and after a few games, I mean, he looks like, let's say, a top half of the NFL quarterback right now. Last night he did, I believe.
Oh, I get it. He doesn't have the big arm. He doesn't have tremendous speed and athleticism. I mean, he has enough to get out of the pocket. He doesn't have size. He's 6'1". He's on the smaller side for a quarterback. He's 6'1", 210, which is a good sized human being, but it's not a huge NFL quarterback. He doesn't have any of those things that NFL talent evaluators really look for. What he has, though, is this unshakable belief that he can get the job done. And he has a lot of fun doing it, obviously. So, that counts for a lot, and it's certainly lifting the New York Giants.
Yeah, I mean, his enthusiasm is infectious, and you can see, even from the outside, as I am, you can see how he's affecting the team around him and how much of a kick they get out of him, and how
the fan base.
Yeah, and how and how they respond to him on the field, and so. Yeah, he's doing the things that you need to do to be a successful NFL quarterback, and just to go back to what you said at the beginning, he's making big plays. I mean, you mentioned the pass to Wandale Robinson on that final drive that got them into field goal position, and that was just a beautiful play. Doing that after he had been forced to escape the pocket and go out to the right, and he just delivered a bullet into the hole there. And by the way, on a great route that was run by Wandale. He created a tremendous amount of separation on that route, but to go out there and hit that pass was in such a crucial situation was such a big deal. And then the other one that I think back to was the touchdown pass to Isaiah Hodgins, which was another play where he rolled out and just threw a beautiful pass, threw it high and in the corner of the end zone where only a big guy like Hodgins could go up and grab it, and it wasn't going to be intercepted. And Hodgins made a great play himself on that to catch the ball and get both feet down in bounds. But those are, I don't know, we'll see what PFF gives him in terms of what they call big time throws and their definition of big time throws. But in my book, those were both very big time throws last night.
Absolutely. Tony, you mentioned Wandale Robinson, and let's move off DeVito a little bit. It was really, really nice to see Wandale Robinson, pretty much break loose last night. He said after the game that yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of him flying to Los Angeles to have surgery for his torn ACL. He said he told the coaching staff in the days leading up to the game that he finally felt 100%. He finally felt ready to shake loose, break some tackles, get some yards after catch, do some things. And he showed it last night. He showed, he gave us a hint a year ago in the game where he got hurt with a 100-yard performance. I don't know how many catches he had, 9 or 10 catches in that game, but he gave us a hint at the player that he could be. And last night was really the first time we've seen that player. And that was really, really nice to see. 32-yard run, a couple of big catches, some yards after catch. That was just a lot of fun to watch Robinson last night.
Yeah, I love the way he's playing right now, and I think you're really starting to see why the Giants thought that he was worth a second round pick. Naturally, that was criticized a lot. A lot of us didn't know anything at all about Wandale Robinson. And on the day he was selected, we all had to go, or not all, but a lot of us had to go back and just look up who he was and so on. And people thought the second round was very high for him to be taken. They thought at best he was a third round pick. And yeah, you know, you look at what he's doing now that he seems to be healthy, and he really looks like a talented player. And then I think about the guy he was catching passes from when he was in college, Will Levis, who dropped during draft evaluation process. So he was originally thought to be somebody who'd go very high up, and then he dropped to, I guess it was bottom of the first round that he finally got drafted, or was it the second? Maybe it was second
I
round.
think it was early second.
Really second round that he got drafted. You know, now all of a sudden he's taking over for Tennessee and winning games for them, and he's looking good too. And meanwhile, Bryce Young is struggling as the number one pick. And so the evaluation of college prospects is just such a crapshoot, I think, for even the people who know best. And all I can say is that yeah, give some props to Joe Shane. Okay, I mean Tommy DeVito, Wandale Robinson, yeah, a few other players, Micah McFadden, and yeah, he's come up with a few good ones that a lot of us didn't know much about.
Absolutely. Tony, we have to talk about the Giants draft stock a little bit. I think that according to Tankathon, looks like the Giants with the win last night, the Giants now have the number 8 overall pick in the first round. They entered the night with the 5th overall pick, and I think people know how I feel. It's like I'm one who says, win games, let the season play out, figure out, figure out the draft when it's time to figure out the draft. But it's kind of like you said, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, and I've written about this. If the Giants want a quarterback in the first round, they'll figure out a way to get one. But the NFL hit rate on quarterbacks, as far as guys who make Pro Bowls, guys who make the top tier, especially in the first round, the hit rate's only like 30-some%. If you look at, I charted this from 2010 forward, and it's about 35 to 37% of guys who live up to the position where they were drafted. There's so much that goes into that. It's not just the talent of the player. It's, does he land with the right coaching staff? Does he land with the right teammates? Does he land in an organization that supports him? Does he land in a scheme that works for him? Is he given a fair opportunity? Bryce Young might be a terrific player, but Bryce Young is getting pounded, and he has a bad team and a bad owner and just a bad organization around him. So he's not set up to succeed. Whereas CJ Stroud, is succeeding in Houston with a new head coach, and they seem to have some weapons, and he seems to be set up to succeed. So it just, there's so many factors that go into it beyond what you see on tape and beyond what you see, when you watch a little bit of all 22 or a kid's highlights or whatever. So you just never know.
Yeah, yeah, and you'll see. I mean, you talk about where the Giants are going to draft. Say right now, as of this morning, they're eighth, but they were fifth. And the reason for that is that I think there are right now 5 teams in the NFL, something like that, tied with 5-8 records. And the first tiebreaker, I believe, for the draft is strength of schedule. And so even when you're not playing, your strength of schedule changes when some team that you've played is still playing a game. And so depending on whether they win or lose, your strength of schedule gets a little bit better, a little worse or whatever, and then you drop behind or move ahead of some other team. And so the fact is the Giants could still draft anywhere from probably 4th or even 3rd, I bet, down to 10th or 11th. And of course, naturally, if they somehow improbably make the playoffs, which is another thing, there's about half of the NFC is battling for that seventh playoff spot as a wild card. So they could draft as low as 19th or even worse than that if they make the playoffs and win a playoff game the way they did last year. But even if they don't, though, they could still finish in a large number of places, just because it comes down to these minuscule strength of schedule differences. And so wondering where they're going to wind up, it's a fun thing to note right now, but there's so far to go before you actually know where they're going to draft, that it's not worth worrying about. And the other thing, just as you alluded to, there's about a 1 in 3 chance that you'll succeed as a quarterback, or that your pick as a quarterback will succeed at the NFL level. And it depends on so many things. And I mean, it's so obvious now that what a roll of the dice it is when you pick a quarterback, and you just have to hope that the guy you pick is landing in a good situation. You're creating a good situation for him, and that he's got the right coaching to succeed. Well, for all the criticism of Brian Daboll and his coaching staff this year, does it look like Tommy DeVito has improved as a quarterback since he first set foot on the field for the Giants? Looks to me like he's improved. And so, maybe he's getting decent coaching from Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka. And that shouldn't be a big surprise if that's true, considering that Brian Daboll was the guy there when Josh Allen came into the league, and Mike Kafka was there for Patrick Mahomes' development, and so on. And so the Giants have guys who kind of know something about quarterbacking, and so whoever they wind up picking, if they pick a quarterback in the draft, whoever they wind up picking, you've got to imagine that they've done a pretty decent job at the personnel end of scouting them, and that he's going to land in the hands of coaches who actually know what to do with them.
Tony, let's talk about that P word, that playoff. Excuse me, playoff word. When the Giants were 2-8, never thought that that we would have this discussion, but now they're 5-8, and you look at the NFC playoff picture. The Packers are still number 7 seed after losing last night with a 6-7 record, but there are 4 other teams: the Rams, Seahawks, Falcons, and Saints, also at 6-7. And the Giants, and believe it or not, the Chicago Bears are just 1 game back at 5-8. Now, you wrote last night that they're in the playoff race, but not really a playoff team. And I think that's probably accurate. That's, they were 2-8. They're still flawed. There's a lot of things that this team needs going forward. It's not a championship caliber team. And the likelihood that the Giants make the playoffs is still very, very slim, with so many teams in this jumbled up mess. I think ESPN's Football Power Index still gives the Giants less than a 1% chance of reaching the playoffs. But geez, we're here. We're entering week 15 of the season, and we have the possibility of playoffs to talk about, and that's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants clearly have flaws. The offensive line has, I think, improved some. And I thought Andrew Thomas did a great job last night. You didn't hear Rashawn Gary's name called, I think, at all in last night's game. And in general, the offensive line, held up fairly well. They didn't do very much run blocking, especially in that first half. They couldn't open up any holes at all. They did a little better in the second half, but the offensive line isn't the disaster that it was early in the season. It's clear that the Giants don't have the talent of a lot of other teams, and they're still they're not going to blow anyone out. But I think it's also clear that we all got a very biased view of how good or bad the Giants are from their early season schedule, because they looked so awful in that opening game against Dallas. I mean, I think most of us went into I shouldn't say most of us. I certainly went into the season thinking that this might be the year that they can start to compete with Dallas. But, well, Philadelphia, that's probably too much to ask for. But let's at least try to take one game from Dallas out of the two that we play them, and and that'll show that we made progress. And when they lost so convincingly, so embarrassingly in that opening game, it was, I think everyone was shell shocked, including them, I think, because that's how they reacted, as if they were shell shocked the way they played for the next few games after that. But fast forward now to the present, and Dallas did to Philadelphia this weekend something that wasn't a whole lot less than what they did to the Giants. San Francisco is regularly blowing out teams, and they blew out Philadelphia too. And so the Giants have played 3 games against apparently 2 of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL, teams that are utterly dominant in most of their games this year. And so you see all those early season games that made us shake our head about how much they had regressed, and you wonder, well, had they really regressed that much, or was it just the bad luck of an early schedule that had all of these really great teams that they were playing that just put them in a hole that started to affect them, so that they just didn't play well overall. And it's kind of a shame that things wound up that way. But I think we're seeing now that they're punching in their weight class a little bit more against the teams they've played the last few weeks, that they're competitive against that next tier of teams in the NFL.
Absolutely. It was always possible when you looked at that schedule that the Giants had: Cowboys, 49ers, Bills, Seahawks early on. It was always possible, 3 games in 11 days to start the season. It was always possible that the season started badly. Yeah, and you're right. The game that I pointed to, the game where I thought they could prove maybe that they had moved closer to that upper echelon, was the first Dallas game, and the Cowboys blew that idea to smithereens quickly. But they're rebounding, they're playing better, and I don't know where this is going to lead, but it's really interesting, Tony, at this point. I still think it's going to take 9 wins. I still think one of these teams with 4 games to play, one of these teams is going to get to 9 wins. I'd be shocked if one of these 6 and 7 teams doesn't get to 9 wins. But maybe that doesn't happen. Maybe it takes 8 wins. Maybe it's an 8 and 9 team that makes the playoffs. And I don't see the Giants running the table. I just don't. Their margin for error is too slim. But all things considered, let's say they get to 7 wins on the season. That's not so bad, considering that they're finding some players on both sides of the ball. They're finding wide receivers in Jalen Hyatt and Wandale Robinson. They've found a guy in Tommy DeVito who looks like he could at least be a backup quarterback in the NFL, at least be a number 2, who can help them, and who knows where the ride ends with DeVito. They found some guys on the defensive side of the ball. Kayvon Thibodeau has become a star. Guys like Micah McFadden have stepped up this year. Deonte Banks played last night like a guy who's going to be a really good player in the NFL for a long time. Jason Pinnock is a playmaker. Bobby Okereke is a really good player. So they're finding pieces to go forward with, and they're finding ways to win games now, and it's a whole lot more fun than it was a month ago. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they absolutely are showing you that they're building a base for being a really good team. I think the defense is not far away at all from being really good. I think they need a little bit more experience in the secondary. They've got young players back there. I think they need more of a pass rush. I think Thibodeau has answered all the questions that people had about him. I think he's having a really, really good season, and I think he's really starting to become an all-around player. I mean, he got another half a sack last night, but I thought, just as important was he made a couple of really nice plays on runs. There was one in particular where he came in on, I think it was 3rd and short, and grabbed the running back. I forget which running back it was, whether it was Taylor or the other one. But anyway, and actually tackled him from behind to stop him from getting the first down. And he's batting passes, and I think he's really, really playing well. And the nice thing,
forcing fumbles, and
that's right. Yeah, he forced a fumble too. Right. That's right. The other thing was on the other side of the line. Aziz Ojulari finally had a nice game too, and he got, I think, the other half of a sack that he shared with Thibodeau, and got several other pressures, I believe, last night. And so, if you just had that reliable pressure coming from both sides of the line, then I think that would mean so much in vaulting this defense into really the upper echelon of NFL defenses. Because what I see this defense does not do yet is that they don't close out games very well when they are ahead. They let teams drive downfield late in the game, and the really great defenses kind of overwhelm the opposing offense late in the game when the offense has to come back on them. And the Giants aren't there yet with their defense. So I still feel like they need maybe one or two more pieces. But other than that, I don't think they're far away on defense at all. All the players you named, Okereke, Jason Pinnock, 5th round draft pick that they picked up off the practice squad, I believe, right? I think he's played well for them, and so the defense looks very promising. I hope they're still being coached by the same guy next year, because I feel like they're playing well for him, and I'd like to see that continue instead of them switching to a completely new defense. The main questions in my mind are still on the offensive side of the ball, but the offense is starting to look at least capable some of the time. And you shore up that offensive line, get maybe one more elite level wide receiver, and figure out who your quarterback is going to be going forward, and they could really have something.
Yeah, they could, Tony, and it's a much better place than it looked like a few weeks ago. And I think that's probably a good place for us to call it a day here before my voice completely gives out. So I think we'll do that. Giants fans, thank you as always for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.